Good day, Kavibal, and welcome to our first session of the Supplemental Materials webinar series. For this afternoon's discussion, our topic would be on embedded pedagogy and blending edtech solutions in the learning design of a virtual classroom, or the innovations in teaching and learning utilizing electronic teaching materials in virtual classes. Before we begin, take note of the following reminders. All certificates will be generated at certificate.vibalgroup.com, and those certificates will be personally emailed to our participants. Also, for questions during the session, place them on the comment box allotted and they will be addressed by our speaker later on. Place your hashtag LearnAs1PH as our official hashtag to our Vibal webinars. Experience learning, ka-Vibal. And now, to proceed with our webinar, it is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Joseph Gonzalez. He is the Director of Innovation and Strategy at TeachingLearning Innovations. He is responsible for developing solutions that integrate teaching, learning, education, innovation, and technology into everyday practice. Joseph is a seasoned educator with more than 20 years of experience spanning academia, industry, government, research, education, and technology. His expertise spans technology, innovation, education, technology, innovation, education, technology, innovation, education, technology, innovation, education,
Hi. Hello. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to check if this is working now. Um, so I need advice from Kiana if I am now online or live in YouTube. Hi. All right. You guys can hear me? Okay. Well, this is the problem of technology because even if we really prepare ahead of time, incidents like this can happen. But I understand it's now working. So thank you very much, first of all, for being here. And I am honored to be one of the speakers and present to you some of the experiences that I had here in the Philippines and also abroad. So we have the title Innovations in Teaching and Learning, utilizing electronic teaching materials in virtual classes. Okay, so all right, so first I'd like to define some of the key terms here. So number one is electronic teaching materials. So what do you mean by that? Well, there are many definitions that we can come up with as far as the definition of electronic materials are concerned. However, I'd like to focus on the fact that these are just anything that need the use of computers or any other technological devices in order to be accessed or to be accessed and used by teachers and students in our online classes. So both for teaching and learning. And then we're gonna go to the teaching and learning innovations student portfolio. Well, we can say that this is something that a lot of you possibly have been doing, especially those who have been teaching for a long time. They have different terminologies for this, but for the purposes of our discussion today, it's just individual collection of student work done throughout their course. So if it's a 2-year course or 4 years, doesn't matter. But those are the things that students will have a collection of. Okay, more about this we'll discuss later. And then we will also have positive expectations. And simply, when we say positive expectations, these are your expectations of your students, of your learners. This is to look forward to something that is optimistic, an outcome that is optimistic. In this case, the teachers plan for his or her students, but it's not just saying that, okay, I expect you to be doing well. It's also something that you should come up with some kind of plans and interventions and activities in order to realize whatever it is that you may have in your mind. And when we talk about teaching and learning innovations, so some of you will say, like, what are the new things that I'm going to learn from this webinar? Now, honestly, you will realize later on that many of the things that I'll be telling you are not, maybe some of these are new for you, but others may not be necessarily new for you. But my definition of innovation is be to innovate from what you have learned from someone or from something. In fact, if I may tell you about the definition of, I think it's Steve Jobs or Bill Gates who mentioned that when you say innovation, it doesn't mean that you have to be really original, right? It is something that you develop from the early discoveries of other people, then you innovate. So from most of this sharings that I'm going to giving you later on, I hope that you'll be able to innovate and plan your materials to suit the needs of your learners. Okay, so let's talk about positive expectations. Now, you may be asking, why do we have to talk about positive expectations? In my experience, what I've noticed is that regardless of how much preparation you can come up with, how much materials you may have, if you don't have these positive expectations of your students, you are bound to fail, right? The early proponents of positive expectations, Rosendal and Jacobson in 1968, they call it the Pygmalion effect. In fact, one of my favorite authors in education, Dr. Harry Wong, even coined it in this way, that your expectations of your students will greatly influence their achievement in your class and beyond. Okay. And I'd like to share something about in my own experience because I remember while I was working in Jakarta, I was able to join the school. It's not really the biggest school in the city. They only have like in secondary, they only have like one class per level. And in that class, you only have about 15-20 students maximum. All right. Now there are many advantages of being in a small school because you really can teach them. You can really address their respective needs as compared to the bigger schools, right? But it also has its fair share of disadvantages. And one of those things that I noticed is that the students seem to be less confident, I would say. And they're satisfied. These students are satisfied to be just doing well in that school. But I told them, sooner or later you'll be taking your international examinations and you will be pitted against the best in the world, right? Because they're taking the international examination. And what better way to prepare to that than by doing it now? Okay, not necessarily preparing for the test, but preparing for competitions, right? So I decided to create this small group of people, establish a debating club. And the worst part is that in that school they're not so familiar with debating, and because they're kind of not confident like speaking in front of a lot of people, that makes it even worse. Okay, but I told them, talking about positive expectations, I said, you have the potentials, you guys have the potentials to do well in any competition. I've seen potentials in you. Now, when we talk about potentials and doing this in front of our students, it's not just using empty words. I think you have to back it up with your plans. So I keep telling them that I believe in you. But we don't even know how to debate. We haven't had any experience whatsoever, Mr. Speaker. So how is that going to be possible? Maybe you're just doing this to motivate us. That's all, right? And one of them even said, teacher talk, as usual. But I told them, no, I really see potentials in you. Okay. And I really do. When I look at my students, every batch of my classes, I always see potentials in them. Right. And to make the long story short, despite the fact that our school's small, and when your school's small, you don't have unlimited supply of talents, right? If you only have one class per level, that's it. If you have 15, 20 students, that's it. Compared to schools with 1,000, 2,000 students. So in terms of talent, we don't have. But because of the positive expectations, this is what happened. We started small. Of course, at the beginning, we're losing. But just after 1 year, these students who didn't believe in their potentials started winning, not just locally, but internationally as well. And that for me is the power of positive expectations. I think I would say that our advantage is because we believe in ourselves, that it's a level playing field out there, that they may have all their advantages, but if we keep on believing in ourselves, and if we have this teacher who believes in us, then we have all the reasons to believe in ourselves as well. This is our humble story in that school, a very small school in Jakarta. It's just 300 schools from, sorry, 300 students from grade 1 until grade 12. Imagine how small that school is. But they were able to compete with some of the best and the biggest schools, again, locally and internationally. The point that I'm making is that positive expectation is very important. We cannot underestimate the advantage of which. Okay, I mean, look at this, my dear teachers. How will they believe in themselves if nobody even believe in them first, right? if the teacher themselves don't believe in their students, who else will believe in them? So it is that I cannot underestimate the power of positive expectations. So I guess that is one of the things that you guys can do. You're very lucky because I can say that you still have almost 2 months to prepare for this virtual learning. When when this happened to us, sometime mid-March, we didn't have the time to prepare. We just had to do it, like our online classes. I remember when it happened, I think sometime mid-March, okay, the school required us to go to school for like a 1 day training. And on Wednesday or Thursday of that week, we started teaching just like that. And it's so hard for us to do it because none of us had that experience. Well, we had experience of using all these gadgets and technology, but it's not like what we experienced in the past 3 months. Okay, I mean, going back to the power of positive expectation, you can start with that at the beginning of the school year, and it's not going to do magic, maybe, but at least it will help them feel good about themselves, and therefore whatever instructions or strategies that you may want to come up with and to help them in their study will make it just a lot easier for them to deal with it. Okay, so let's now go to the examples of e-teaching materials. So there are plenty, but I'd like to focus on the following. So one of which is what we call audio visual. So we have the YouTube content, we have the TED Talks, live streams. I remember like 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was a live stream of some astronauts that were sent to the ISS, International Space Station, right? And it was live. It was being shown live. And if you are a science teacher and it happened that you had a class during that time, I think you can very well use that. Documentaries. If you are a PE teacher, if you're familiar with the Last Dance, the Michael Jordan Chicago Bulls team, right? You can show that as well. And these are all readily available in the net. Then we also have digital game-based platforms. I've been following the Vibal webinars, and some of the speakers talk about Kahoot, Socrative, Quizzes, Quizlet, and many others. So you have plenty of supply out there. Then you also have what we call the electronic versions of printed resources. And I'm very proud to say that the Vibal group have prepared their materials. So they have textbooks, they have test booklets, activity sheets, supplements, and teaching guides. All right, it looks like this, but I'd like to show you so that you can easily see some of the examples. Maybe later, because what I did, I copied some of the samples from that site. So this is free, okay? At least some of the materials are free, but eventually if you want to use all of them completely, you have to talk to the Rebound group, okay? So another example of their e-teaching materials will be the academic book, or maybe we can say textbooks, right? And it looks like this. So this is, I guess, a social studies textbook. All right, you like what I said, the what do you call this? The link is right there, so you can easily access those materials. They also have the activity sheets, which includes activity sheets for Filipino, English, math, science, etc. And it will look like this. So you can find some performance tasks, graphic organizers, for many different subjects. Okay, so this is an example, which is a science subject of a performance task. And this is for mathematics. And the best part of the Vival teaching materials is that they don't just stop at providing you or us with practice sheets or tests, but they also have home guide. Now, remember that in this virtual learning that we're doing, that we will be doing in a few months' time, parents will take the place of the teachers, at least for some days, right? Because I don't exactly know what's going to happen in many different schools, whether it's public or private, because they said that it's going to be blended. Some are saying that it's going to be completely modular. But regardless, there should be some kind of a guide for the parents or guardians to make sure that they are in step with what is required by DepEd. That they're not just there to, okay, you can study now, okay, here's your place, and I expect you to finish your work. But if you have a very young student, even not so young students, if they're not guided well, it can be total chaos for the students, right? Can you imagine, even if it's a face-to-face teaching and learning, we have a lot of challenges. We can just imagine if it's going to be virtual or modular, where you send the material for the first 1, 2 weeks and then you get it afterwards. I don't know what's going to happen without the parents taking the role, at least for some days, of the teachers, right? By making sure that they know what they are going to do. They know how they can follow up their own children in their self-study. And here's a sample of a test booklet. All right, I think it's in science. And I understand the answers are also provided at the end. And maybe you'll be asking, why do they have to provide the answer key? Right? Well, it's autonomous learning. But what if they just look at the answers? That's why we are here as teachers. We're going to guide them. That's why the parents must be our constant partner in this education, right? Later on, I'll be telling you how you can go about it, right? But it's important that there should be an answer key so they can have an immediate feedback. For as long as we can develop this habit or the system of autonomous learning among our students, it shouldn't be a problem. Okay, you're also aware that there are other sites. I think Books is one of those. It's for free, at least for the first 1 month. And I tried this. It's very good for young learners because yeah, the storybooks that will be brought to life. So it's going to be very exciting for our young learners. You can try that out. Okay. I know that not a lot of us, or not all of our schools will be able to um, you know, buy or use this, but I'm also sure that some possibly private schools or some parents would like to do this. But we can try the free ones. Okay, because I'm a English language teacher. All right, this is one of the famous sites that I always go to. It's known as Common Lit. Okay, it's a source for text of various genres. And later on, I'll show you how I was able to use this to my advantage. All right. But whether you are teaching in an international school or private school or public school, I'm pretty sure you can use some of the materials here. The best part is that it's for free, 100%. You just have to sign up, okay? For not just for English teachers, But I think teachers who teach social sciences, maybe even math, because there are plenty of various themes available here in Common Lit. Okay, and maybe you notice that it's there's a lot of sites that have something to do with language and literature because I'm a language teacher. And again, another site that is very important to me is LitCharts. Again, it's free. I would say 50-60% of the materials are free. The 50-40% you have to pay for it. And because this is very beneficial to me, I subscribe to it. I think if you're going to subscribe like on a monthly basis, you have to pay 500 pesos. But if you want to really subscribe for like a longer time, I think you can save if it's going to be annual. But I thought that I just want to use it for a few months, and once I'm done, then I'll have to stop it, or at least I can download as many materials as I can, and then use it as my own. Right? You just have to spend one whole day, 2 whole days, um, looking for all the materials that you can use considering the syllabus that you have for your school. And there are other sites like the In Thinking. If you are familiar with the IB program, the International Baccalaureate program, which is what our school is using, okay, basically that is the reason why they exist, because of IB. However, you will find out that if you go to their website, there are plenty of materials that you can use. It's not just language or literature. You have math, you have social studies, you have sciences. Maybe I'd like to show you some of the sites, some of the features of this site here. So I'm gonna stop sharing this for the time being, and I'll be looking for. Just give me a few seconds here, guys. I'll be looking for that part. Okay, and then later I'll be sharing it to you. Okay. All right, so it's taking a little bit of time, but I think it's going to be very helpful for all of you. So now I'm going to share my screen again. All right, let's see if it's available. Okay. Can you actually see my screen? Mm-hmm. Why is it like that? Okay, let me just stop sharing and I'll be trying it again. So while I'm doing this, as I was saying, it's very helpful because it encompasses all the subjects. And I hope at this time you now can see my screen. Can they see my screen? All right. I know there's a bit of delay. I've been informed. It's slightly delayed. So there you go. So you can see that this is their site and there are many subjects, but I am now in the maths or mathematics. So for example, this one is free, right? This one is free. So all you have to do, if you're a math teacher, you can click this right here, okay? And you can see all these materials and you have the option to share it to your students. Like, let's see, or do it in a presentation mode. Okay, let's see if it's possible. So all these materials are readily available. They've been prepared by experts. So why not make use of them, right? Okay, so we can just exit from here. Okay, and you can see that if we go to the home, you'll be able to see, well, this is the home for the maths application. But let's say we just use the thinkib.net. So you can see all the different subjects there is. Okay, so this is what you can find. All right, they even have a free trial if you want to, but then I have to warn you, this is kind of expensive. But you don't have to subscribe anyway, right? I mean, you don't have to buy this or pay for its subscription. What you can do is you can use all that are currently free for this website. Okay, now if you have subscription, then all the better. So like for example here, if I let's see if this one will work. Let's see if this one will work. All right, because I'm subscribed to the English A language and literature, so this is the only thing that's available for me. So I cannot access the math, the complete math, or the business studies or the economics. But English A language and literature I can. So everything that I need for our curriculum, which is IB program, it's all here. So I have the, the test construction. I have all the, if you want to arrange your topics, because the teacher in IB, they have the free hand to arrange the topics according to, let's say, according to concepts or according to areas of exploration, as they say, right? Concepts. And they have samples of examination, so you can practice your students with all these materials right here. So this just goes to show that these are just samples of those websites. Again, even if this caters to a different curriculum, but it's the same concept, right? It's still mathematics anyway. It's still language. It's still literature. You still have all those texts that you will be needing. You just have to find the right material for you. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing this. All right. And then I'll share my presentation, my PowerPoint presentation one more time. Back. Will you please go back? All right. So I don't know if this is the right. Let's see. All right. So let me just, okay, here. Okay, so this is where we stopped, I guess. And all right, let's continue. So aside from the in thinking, aside from the common lit, and aside from what else did I share to you? Lit charts. We also have the Cambridge Assessment English. Okay, so here's the link right here, and here are the links for autonomous learning materials. We say autonomous learning materials because the students will have the choice to do the activity that they feel they need. There's a plethora of choices right there. You have the bonus lesson, and you also have the online practice exercises for learners. Now, this is a totally different syllabus, different from IB program. This is Cambridge, right? But again, like what I said earlier, you can definitely use many of these materials, right? So why not take advantage of them? And then we have, like, what are the types of e-teaching materials that you can use? So we have the reading materials, and some of them have been shown in those sites that I have shared with you. We have the project or enrichment work, assignments, essays, formulas, experiments for science teachers, right, or for science students. You have test practice activities. In fact, Vival has this as well. And you have web-based and print practice exercises, right? Okay, so just to give you an idea how this works, for example, if you're using a Cambridge site or material, so the beauty of this is that since we will be doing an autonomous kind of instruction or learning for our students, so you will have, this site right here, and I think this is a vocabulary like exercise. Okay, it's a vocabulary exercise. It's about the use of quit, quiet, and quiet. Okay, for some learners, it's kind of confusing. So you just have to click. The student just needs to click this. All right, and then this will be read, and then you have to decide which one was used. In this case, I use quit, and then when I check my answer, or whoever is doing this, then you have an immediate feedback. Now, this is something that you don't normally use or do in the classroom. The beauty of this is that this can be done at home, anytime, and for how long, it depends on the need of the students. So if you did it well, if you're right with your answer, then that's what you get. But let's say the student made a mistake. So there's immediate feedback, right? That's what I'm saying. There's still this immediate feedback. Although there's no replacement to the feedback that we teachers can provide, but at least for the time being, and while they are not yet done with their module, for example, it's in the middle of the week, then they can use this. Practice makes perfect. So the more practices that they have, the better it should be for them, because they will be able to master the skills necessary for them, not just to pass the examinations, guys, but also to really learn the skill. Okay, that is what we want our students uh, to learn, not just to pass a test. Okay, all right. But then there are challenges because it's not a perfect situation, right? So at this point, I'd like to ask the help of Kiana. So we will have some kind of a survey. I just want to find out the pulse of my co-teachers, of my friends, okay, and maybe other allied professionals. So what do you think about this? Okay, I will have three statements, and this is the first statement. Do you think that there are many questions online or activities online and they are overwhelming? So please cast your vote. You just have to choose one of the choices. Either you agree or disagree. I'm going to wait for a few minutes for you to do that because I understand there's a bit of delay. So again, please decide whether there are far too many choices, far too many questions that are available online, so much so that our students are overwhelmed, if not confused. Wow, look at this. I don't know if you can see what I am seeing right now, but based on the results, it's 100%. Oh, now it's 90%. Okay, so that means I still have to wait for your responses. But so far, we have 93% saying that they agree that these materials are overwhelming. And there's like 8 to 10% saying that they disagree. Okay. So what if we know that these choices, that these materials are overwhelming? So why do we have to do that? Why do we have to know that? I think it's important for us to know that because we should know when we should come in as teachers. You see, we say autonomous learning, but it doesn't mean that the students will 100% study on their own. We still need, and they still need our guidance. The reason why we're here is because then we have to tell them, ladies and gentlemen, what are those things that they will need and that they will not need. Okay, because we don't want in the end to confuse students when they keep looking for materials and before they know it, their 2 hours, 3 hours is already gone, right? We don't want that to happen. So let me just share to you my screen one more time. Okay, so yeah, too many choices, and 90% of you would say that you agree with it, right? But again, that's why we're here. Okay, we need to guide our students. The reason is that we cannot just give this completely to our kids. Okay, some of you will be saying, "Oh, it's going to be very simple. You know, autonomous learning. Then you just have to study there, and I'll just sit on my laurel, all right, and then wait for the results, and hopefully it's something positive." It doesn't happen that way. So I have another question here. Okay, let's have another survey. The survey is that, do you agree with the statement that too much time spent on practice exercises? And I think it's very closely related to the first question, right? Not much guidance on the part of the teachers. Do you agree that this is what's happening really? Too much time spent on practice exercise, and that the teachers, they don't perform their responsibility anymore, that they don't guide their students anymore. Wow, at least 85% of you are saying that yes, Mr. Spina, there's too much time spent on practice exercises and that we don't do our work anymore. So all of us are guilty, huh? Okay. So what does that tell us? It only tells us that we should not just rely on practice exercises, right? We should still do our work. I don't want to say or use the sentence, we are being paid to do that. But I think this is our ministry. We are teachers. We have to do it, regardless of our pay, whether or not they pay us or not. I think it doesn't make sense that just because there are plenty of available exercises out there, you can just relax and allow your students to be overwhelmed. It doesn't happen that way. And I completely agree with you when with your response that this can happen. But the good news here is that now we know that this can happen, we can put a stop on this, right? Okay, so I'd like now to go to the next question. And that's the last survey question that I'll be giving you. So let me just share my screen one more time. All right, this is the last survey question. Let me just, okay, it says here, it's overwhelming. Okay, this is the same question, I guess. It's overwhelming. Hmm. Wait. Wait. Okay, here. Students need abundant supply of relevant content. Okay, I think this is the next question that you have to answer, or this is the next survey question or statement that you have to decide whether you agree or you disagree. That students need abundant supply of relevant content. Do you agree? Because I remember growing up, when I was in primary, secondary, even in college, in the early 80s, sorry, early 90s, we have very limited supply of materials, right? Usually it's a textbook, nothing else. And lucky for us, if our teachers have like other resources, then they can use it. But if our teachers are just contented with the textbook, then we're we're stuck with the textbook of our teacher. That's all, right? And I'm seeing a result of about 86% of you saying that you agree that there should be abundant supply, and that the others say 14% saying no, they don't need abundant supply. I think enough supply is what we should have, or that the teacher's resources, the exercise book, maybe one exercise book and one textbook should be more than enough, and a little bit of other materials should be enough. But then, if that is the case, then how will this be an autonomous learning if we are providing them with little choices, right? How will students take care of or take charge of their learning if we only have these are the only materials that you can use, nothing else, these three materials, that's all, as compared to having a bunch of many different materials. It can be audio visual, it can be practice exercises, and so on and so forth, right? So please think about it, ladies and gentlemen. So once more, let me just share my screen to you. Okay, so for some reasons, my my what do you call this? My PowerPoint has been mixed up, so I'll just look for the next slide. Okay, it's mixed up. So okay, let's see. I'm finding the next. So right now. Okay. So I'm looking for the teaching and learning innovations. Oh, okay. Sorry about this. So I just have to, okay, not this one. I think we're done with this. Okay, we're done with this. Okay. Okay, here's our survey. Okay, there we go. So now we're in the teaching learning innovations. All right, now now I got this from the MELC. I was told it's called MELC, the learning competencies prepared by the DepEd. It's like 3 to 12 program, right? So I think this is an English learning. These are English learning competencies. And what we do is that when we teach, we don't just teach them, okay? When we make our lesson plans, we have the objectives. I think it's important that we share the objectives, especially because students have to learn at home. They should know what they should learn, not just the materials, but what is the end point of this module, for example. But you don't just stop at looking at the learning competencies, because you know what, guys? If these are the objectives that you'll be telling your kids, okay, at the end of the module, you should compare and contrast the contents of the materials viewed with outside sources of information in terms of accessibility and effectiveness. Honestly, I don't even understand that. Okay. I understand the first few words, but not the entire thing. It's kind of long, right? Even the second one, employ analytical listening and problem solving. What do you mean by that, right? Evaluate and make judgments about a range of text using a set of criteria, like comparing arguments on the same topic, critiquing a short story. Maybe they will have some ideas, but even I don't completely understand because I'm new to this. But for all of you guys who are in the public school, I'm sure you're very aware of this. But the point that I'm making here is that we don't just, as we share our objectives to our students, we don't use exactly the same objectives that we have in our MELC, in our learning competencies. Okay, we have to make it age appropriate. You have to reword it and then share it to them. Now, here is my challenge to all of you. Okay, choose one of these learning competencies here and do your best to reword it in such a way that your students will be able to understand. Okay, it should, the meaning should remain the same, all right, but you have to paraphrase, if I may say so, using words that are easily understood by your students. So if you're talking about your grade 1 students, I think you have to make it appropriate to that level. But this I guess it's for grade 10. So you have to think of words that your grade 10 students will be able to understand. So I'm going to give you a few minutes, maybe 2, 3 minutes, and maybe Kiana can share some of their answers to me later on because I'm not sure if we can do what we did earlier. But I just want to see how you can reward this in a way that your students will be able to understand. The point that I'm making here is that when we teach, we have to make it intentional. We have to make, or we have to ask or tell the students that this is what we're going to be learning today on for the next 1 week, 2 weeks. And I want you to put it in your heart and mind, okay? Because you're going to take charge of your learning anyway, right? So I'll be waiting for a few minutes and let's see if we have more or less the same way of rewarding this learning competencies. Okay, Kiana. So are you going to share some of their answers? Because so far I don't see anything here. Is that is that even possible? Oh, I've been informed that it's a bit delayed, so I think I have to be a little more patient, with this. But it's really important that we know how to reward. We cannot afford to use exactly the same wording. This statement, these statements will shock your students. Okay, they will not understand this. Then there's no point of sharing your objectives to them in the first place, right? If you're not gonna reward them in the first place. So you have to make sure that it becomes part of your system. I know it's an added task for all of you guys, but if we are really sincere in teaching and you know trying to reach out to our students, especially during this pandemic when learning is far more challenging, I think we have to do it. It is our more responsibility. Okay. All right. So can I have some of your answers? Okay, so I don't know. Maybe you have posted some of your answers in YouTube. Maybe not yet, because otherwise, then I just have to continue. All right. Okay. So there's really some kind of delay here, and I've been waiting for maybe 3 minutes now. But for me, this is really important, guys. Okay. So but anyway, so I don't know exactly what's going on right now, but I see like, oh, chat. Okay, let me just, oh, there you go. Sorry. So I see some answers here, from Dennis Solomon. Compare compare and contrast the meaning of accessibility and effectiveness. Awesome, right? That's much better than the first one. I like that. From Carl Kenneth Reyes, apply analytical listening with process system in solving problems. I'm not so sure about that, but it's a bit better than what we have from Depth Ed right here. Compare compare learning materials from other resources to ensure quality in terms of its appropriateness and quality. I am a student from UST. I like your answer. Student from UST. I think you get the idea, right? So we have to share our objectives to our students, but we make sure that it is age appropriate. That's what I'm saying. And let's see. if my answer is similar to your answer, okay, let me just show this to you a little bit. Okay, so I tried it, and like what I told you, the first one, it's really a challenge for me. So I stopped at show the differences and similarities. That's all. Okay, but I tried and I did better, I guess, in the second learning competency. Listen attentively to what is being said and it accurately means and what it actually means in order to solve a problem. See, the words are much, much simpler compared to the deaf-ed wording. And finally, I think this is what it means, right? Decide what grade can be given on the text, whether it's a short story or speech, based on a rubric. So if you have this wording plus all the other samples that you have given, I think it will be much better. And the students will be able to really connect to you, to your teaching, and to your process, and to your system and strategy. All right. So, which brings me to autonomous learning, right? What is autonomous learning in the first place? Well, you have listened to a lot of speakers, and they more or less say the same thing. And for me, it is to allow students to learn by themselves. But we don't just stop at giving them or allowing them to learn by themselves. We don't stop there. We have to provide an environment where their needs can be met. Okay, so what are my recommendations? What are the recommendations? So we have to tie learning to students' personal interests. I think that's a no-brainer. Let students work together and to meet learning goals. Now, the second one will be a little bit challenging because unless you have a very good platform, this is going to be a big of a this is going to be a challenge for everyone. I tried doing this using Microsoft Teams. It's good, okay, but not a lot of platforms will enable you to do this. But the third one, give students a voice in their own learning. Give them a choice. Let them take charge of their learning. At the end of the day, we want to trust them, right? They need to feel that we teachers, that parents trust them. That's that's what positive expectation is all about, right? We we let them know that we trust them, and when they feel it, and when we are sincere, they will do it. Okay, hopefully they will do it. All right, so I'm not going to teach you how to make a lesson plan, okay, but I just want to come up with some kind of a some kind of a plan here, okay, very simple plan, right? uh, I say we should have a clear, complete, and easy to follow lesson stages, right? Every school, every country, maybe they have different terminologies for the different stages or parts. But I think it just boils down to the following: pre-election. Some people call it motivation. Then you have the lesson proper. You have to teach the content, right? Then you have the exercises. You have a lot of what do you call this formative exercises here, okay, to make sure that they learn the skill. And then in the end, you will have enrichment exercise or maybe a summative assessment. But there's an additional here because this is online learning. They should have reflection and their plan of action, right? So we will be visiting that one by one. So one of the examples that I'd like to share is, well, you have plenty. Like that's why we bombard you with so many available materials there is in the web. Like some of you said that too much, but I think too much is better than too less, right? And in fact, I'll just be giving you few samples here. And the first one is survey. So if you want to have a motivation, survey is good, like what we're doing here, okay? So when we use the Microsoft Teams, I had the survey. I cannot remember my topic here, but I just asked for their religious affiliation. Are you a Christian, a Buddhist, atheist? Muslim, others, and then they just have to submit the vote, and voila, you have the results. And then from there, you can continue with your discussion. Okay. Next, it can be a background of your topic. Okay. And one of my more favorite sites will be the History channel, which you can access in YouTube, right? If you click this, it will work. But then I don't want to click that right now because whenever I click, a video like that, after a few minutes, I experience a lot of problems here. So I don't want to mess up my computer right now. But yes, that is going to work. Okay. And these are legit sources. Okay. It's not just any random vloggers doing their channel, because I'm not generalizing, but there are so many vloggers whose work are not really checked, and so in terms of accuracy, there's always a question there. But this is something that is really legitimate and reliable. Okay. And let's say you're done with the prelection, then you have the lesson proper. So you have so many things to choose from, sites to choose from, and I'm just sharing lit charts. Okay. Because why am I suggesting lit charts? Is because everything that you need is there. You have the character analysis, you have the themes for language and literature teachers, you have the summary, you have the literary devices, everything. It's there. Okay. What else can you ask for? Right. And then for your exercises, the best that I can share to you is Vival. Okay. Because it's very comprehensive. They have the academic book, they have activity sheets, they have the test booklet, supplements, home guide. They even have, I think, student digest. Okay. You can also try to check that out. Okay. And now for your assessment or for your enrichment, now I'll be sharing to you Common Lit. Now, how did I use this? Earlier, I told you that this is one of my favorite as well, one of my favorite sites as well. So, for example, you see when one of the uh, what they call the syllabuses that I taught was Cambridge program. All right, and when we prepare for the examination, what we use is the past papers. And in some schools, they're not really strict. Teachers are just required; they're just allowed to use any material. They just mix and match because there are different parts, right? So, for example, they have paper one, paper two, paper three. So if you're going to give them an examination, right? So make sure what we do is we try to mimic or simulate everything, even in the classroom, for their exercises, for their um, what they call this quizzes and final exams. We use exactly the same format of test so that they are familiar with the test type. All right. And in some schools, what they do is that they just mix and match. For paper one, if it has three parts, part one they get from a different year of past paper. Part two is from another year. And then so when they put it together, it's not from the same year. But there's this one school that said, with the technology right now, they can access all those information and details, even the answer key they can access, which is true. Okay. And this school that I would like to share to you required all the teachers to make use of original materials, which means that even if it's exactly the same kind of test that we'll be using, I mean, in terms of format, but the content you cannot find in the past papers. We have to make it our own. And the go-to place for me is Common Lit. And for example, I'm gonna show you the how it looks. For example, see, "Hello, my name is" by Jason Kim. In fact, I took this from Common Lit here. "Hello, my name is." But I did not use it completely. I modified it to suit my needs, to suit the needs of my students, to suit the need of our examination requirement. right? But of course, I have to acknowledge common lit in the end, right? So I use the material, although not 100%, but at least I have the material already. I just have to tweak a little bit some of the parts of the story or of the text. And then here's the second part, because what they have in Cambridge program is that they have like a text. You have to read that. The student needs to read that, and then you will have there are, I think, two or three sections. The first section is like directed writing. There's not a lot of grammar test. Okay, it's all about writing. So this is the question, and this question, even if they search anywhere, they cannot find this because this is originally done by myself. Okay, based on the requirements of the test. The point that I'm making here is that I can use Common Lit for my assessment, right? Not just for quizzes, not just for long tests, but even for end of the year examinations, and maybe even for your enrichment exercises. Okay, and let's say you are lucky enough to have, you know, a platform where you can, teach, and your students can really listen to you, right? Don't just, okay, this is what we're gonna do, I'll be talking, and then done. You should have some kind of exit card. So what is exit card? I use the word or the phrase exit card just to make it very simple. This is just to make sure that when your students listen to you, they will really listen to you. Because if they know that you'll just be talking and talking, they, what can happen is that students can just log in and then they can do other things. They will not listen to you. But if you have an exit card, they cannot do it unless they listen to you. And this is an example of that. This is from a Microsoft Teams. Okay, so this is very simple, by the way. There you can innovate, like what I said, right? The point that I'm making is that just make sure that they will not be able to do your exit card unless they listen to the entire 1 or 2 periods, right? Okay. Now, since we talk about autonomous learning, and we want them not just to, to study, but they need to have some kind of reflection. We call it the learner's plan of action. Okay, because the problem here is that after you teach them, maybe they will stop right there. Okay, whether or not they learn something, they will stop there. But if you have a reflection and a plan of action, that must be smart. If we require our teachers to have a lesson plan that's smart, then we should also require our students to have a plan of action, a learning plan, if I may say, that is also smart, which means it should be specific. What lessons will they want to focus on, right? It should be measurable. How will they monitor their progress? It should be achievable. Is there any realistic plan that they have in mind? So this is per student. This is not per group. This is per student. It should be relevant. So what are the challenging lessons or skills that they have identified that they have to focus on still, that they still have to master? And it should be time bound. What is their time frame that they have set for themselves? Okay. So I'm going to share to you a simple smart action plan. It looks like this, very simple indeed, right? So you guys can definitely do this. So you can have something like a table that looks like this, and then you have struggle in the following topics or skills or lessons. And then what's your plan? I must access more practice sheets from the sites that you have given me, sir, ma'am, right? That's why at the beginning, right, in the middle, I mean, we say we should give them as many sites and materials as possible so they can take care of their own learning. But they are guided. They are guided because they have the smart action plan. When are they going to finish that? Oh, I'll finish it maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. No, it should be specified. And if it's too long, taking them too long, then maybe you as a teacher should tell them that they have to adjust this. Now, in order to make sure that they will really be responsible online learners, that they will be able to self-pace their study, we need to have student portfolio. At the beginning, I kind of defined this, but just to reiterate, it is an individual collection of student work done throughout their course. Okay, it can be a space whereby students can prepare for assessment, for tests, etc. And it should provide evidence of the students' work and a reflection of their preparation, again, for examinations. Now, the worst part that can happen is that how do we know that our students are taking notes, right? Even during face-to-face learning, very few students are taking down notes. How much more in online learning? But with the help of student portfolio, it can be addressed. And there are many available platforms that you can use. And I would like to share now. So some of them are the following. You can use KidBlog, Wikispaces, Easy Portfolios, Evernote, Google Sites. Okay, I'm sure you're familiar with Google Sites, Google Classroom, etc. I think you can use those things. If you're a blogger, WordPress is one of those platforms that came out right early, and you can have OneNote. And I'd like to share to you OneNote because this is what we're using. Okay, so you're gonna ask, look, is this going to be graded? It's up to you. You can grade it. You may not grade it. Okay, the most important thing is that they are doing it. And what you can do is you can show them a sample. But because this is their own electronic notebook or student portfolio, they can design their own student portfolio. Like what I did in my class is for Katara Jones right here. So I gave them a simple like a design. So I have handout, class notes, homework, quiz. But then I told them you can modify that based on your need. If you think you don't want to have homework there, you want to put it together with class notes, then you can put it in the same folder. So anyway, this student really did just that. Okay, this is not exactly how I arrange it. A little bit similar, but definitely not the same. So let's say you click handout right here, what will come out will all be this materials. So Buzz Lerman, these are the authors that we have studied, Barbara Kruger and other media commercials. And in IB, we have what we call like body of work. We don't just study something. We make sure that it is something that is done only by one author. So there is relevance to what they're doing and meaning to what they're doing. And let's say PSA. Well, PSA stands for it's supposed to be not in that way, but because this is owned by that student, so she doesn't care. This is for me. It's not for my teacher, right? PSA. That's a public service announcement. You click that, then out comes the following. So we have these authors: Emma Gonzalez, Tarana Burke, Caitlin Flanagan, Oprah. And when you click this folder right there, then it will reveal this collection of all the materials that we have been doing since day one. Okay, this is what we mean by student portfolio. Very helpful. Okay, it makes them really responsible students, and they feel proud of it because when they try to compare notes, they say, okay, this is how you do it. This is mine. Okay, you may want to have some videos here as well. Okay, so in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, what I just shared to you are the following: that in virtual learning, it's very important that we have supplementary materials. It can be electronic teaching materials that we have defined, and there are so many of them, tons of them. You will never be able to finish them. But it's better to have, like what I said, too much than too little, right? Because we teach them to become self-propelled. That's why under teaching and learning innovations, we need to have some kind of student portfolio. You may or may not grade them, but in my case, I don't grade them, but I require them. And regularly I check that. It's easy to check because it's online, right? And they should have autonomous learning. They should decide for themselves with your guidance. And you should have exit card as well to make sure that every time you meet them, at the end, there is always an output, that they will not just be logging in and then they can do other things. And finally, but maybe as important as the others, is positive expectations. You want your students to succeed. Make them feel that you believe in them and they will definitely succeed. This has been proven by research. You can ask Dr. Harry Wong. Okay, this is what he has been teaching to so many teachers all around the world. Now, I'd like to end with this statement from Dr. Harry Wong, saying that there is no nobility in being better than someone else. The only nobility is being better than who you were the day before. So, yes, this might be a challenging situation for all of us, stage in our lives, very difficult, very uncertain, but we can become better teachers here. And our students need more than ever teachers who are willing to go out of their comfort zone. The things that I've shared here, they are not really, really new, but you can innovate based on what you have heard and what you've learned and what you have seen from the many resources, strategies, and maybe some ideas that I have here in my short presentation. Thank you very much. And if you have questions, you may do so. You can ask me questions if there's still enough time. Kiana,
Hi sir, magandang hapon po.
hi.
Hi sir. So here po we have some questions from our viewers this afternoon. So
Mhm.
first question po, sir, how can we integrate IB practices to the Philippine setting? Hello po sir.
IB is a totally different syllabus, like what I said. Hi, can you hear me? It says here that my internet connection is not stable. Can you hear me?
Yes po sir, okay na po.
All right. So as I was saying, IB and even Cambridge, for example, these are totally different syllabus, right? Compared to the depth ed learning competencies, or I don't know how they call it, right? System of education. It's very, very different. So we cannot really use many of them, but like what I have shared here, we can use some of them. Like the use of student portfolio is one of the requirements in IB. Okay. Again, it's not being checked by the teachers, but the IB, for example, when they visit the school for checking, they can ask for that. So if the students don't submit that, if the teachers do not regularly require their students to do that, then it's minus against that school. But more than that, I think it's really a way to make students become independent learners. And that is one of the reasons, and that's one of the aims of IB program, to have independent learners. And they've been doing this for the past, I don't know, 60, 70 years. Yes, I think that's the best way to answer that question. I hope I gave justice to that.
Okay po Sir Eric, thank you very much. Next question po natin.
Mhm.
Sir, do you have any suggestion for us seasoned teachers on using electronic teaching materials? Thank you po.
Well, I didn't exactly know if I understood the question, but I'll give it a go. The way I understood the question is that, the veteran teachers, right, the vintage teachers, if I may say so, maybe um, the one who asked the question means that they're not updated with the technology, with all this platforms that they have to learn. Even a simple use of Excel, Word, PowerPoint, maybe is still a challenge for some of our more vintage seasoned teachers, I would say. I think what you can do is just practice because there's no other way. Like I remember just talking to my dad last week. He said he still wanted to teach, but he's almost 80 years old. And he said, but if I want to teach, I still want to use the traditional one because I definitely cannot teach using the technology that you're using right now. But I told my dad, if you really want to teach, there's no other choice, but you have to learn the basics of computer. You start with Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and then little by little you'll be learning. There's a lot of sites that will teach you how to use all these platforms. I think YouTube is one of them. And if you have younger members in your family who can teach you, because these children, for for all you know, they are known as the digital natives, right? When they were born, they have all these things available, and we are just digital immigrants. So I'm considered a digital immigrant. I just learned doing this in, I think I started using computer in 1995, 1996. Okay. My first computer was in 1995, 1996. And even at the time, I felt that I didn't know even how to use Excel. The point that I'm making here is that there's no other way but to learn it. And there are many available websites that can teach you how to do it. And you can also ask the younger members of your family to help you look for digital natives to help you out, because for sure they'll be more than happy to do it for you.
Okay po, sir. Thank you very much po. And our last question for this afternoon. The question po is, sir, do you have any suggestions on how we can manage the online behavior of our students considering the use of electronic teaching materials? Yun po.
That's a very good question, I would say, because these are the things that we experience. Like what I told you, when we had the lockdown, we just had to stop teaching for one day because we had a 1 day training for that. And then we started doing our online training in mid March. And we encountered a lot of problems. Okay. But lucky for you guys, because like what I said, you still have almost 2 months of time to prepare for that. So if you're asking, like, how will we make sure that students will behave? Is that the question? Or how will we make sure that students will really study in the online platform? The honest answer is that it's really hard. It's difficult. But I think the school can make some kind of guideline. All right. And I think the use and the help of IT professionals will come in handy. Like I had a student in my class who just bugs everyone, because he's good in computers. He would mute unmute the students even though I did not give them any chance, or like they're not allowed to do that actually in the setup that I have made, but for some reasons they can still do it. But with the help of our IT professionals, we're able to identify who that student is, and you know the warning and consequences were given to the student. I think it's very important that at the beginning you have to talk to the students, and that you tell them that we have IT professionals who are looking at us, and it's not only you and me, but we have other teachers who can visit us anytime, professionals who can visit us anytime. And most importantly, remember what I told you at the beginning, positive expectations. You tell them that I know that you will be responsible. Because whatever it is that you think positively about your students, chances are it will happen. Because if you always have doubts that they will just play around, that they will not do it, maybe, just maybe, that is what will happen to you. So my suggestion is make sure that your IT professionals are there to help you out. Make sure that you give them your positive expectations, and also make sure that you mean business. That the use of this technology is something that should be done with responsibility, and that you are always looking and checking them. Okay, how? By using the smart platform or plan of action by using the exit card, by talking to them once in a while. In the middle, you can always ask them, are you paying attention to me? You have to answer. You can give a survey so that they are always busy, okay? And make sure that their learning is relevant and meaningful, all right? So I think with all those things that I've mentioned, it's not going to be 100% effective, but at least I think it will kind of help you with this. I'm telling you right now, I still have a lot of problems, and I'm looking at ways by which I can improve my virtual learning strategy next academic year, because our academic year will start mid-August. So we just stopped like 2 weeks ago, and then we're gonna start again in mid-August. So, but don't worry, because this is we are all a work in progress. Okay, we will still learn along the way, and Vibal has still this lineup of speakers who will probably answer some of your questions. And as we continue to do our work and explore, nothing is impossible. I think we will get the hang of it sooner or later. That's all I can say.
Okay, Paul. Thank you very much, Sir Eric. There we have it. So in behalf of Vibal Group Incorporated, sir, we would like to thank you for spending this afternoon with all of our Kavibal viewers. We hope to see you, sir, next time for another session.
Yana,
And yes po.
can I just request
Apo.
like 1 or 2 minutes? Because some of
Sige
my
po,
friends
sir.
are
Sige po,
some of my
sir.
friends are asking me to give them a shout out. Okay, yeah. So I'd like
Okay po,
to
sir.
greet my thank you. I just want to greet my classmates in college from Holy Rosary College, especially to Dang Lagarde, all my friends, and thank you for your support. And yeah, I I was not able to read some of the comments there, but I remember just a few minutes before the start of this webinar, one of my friends told me to give her a shout out, and I almost forgot that. So again, thank you very much, and God bless everyone.
Okay po, sir. Wala na pong babanggiting ibang friend, sir?
Wala na.
Or...
That's all.
Sige po, sir. Thank you very much po. And we'll see you next time, sir. And to all of our Kabibal viewers, of course, we'll see you for the next sessions about supplemental materials webinar series. Thank you very much, and God bless everyone.